Hello, I'm going to talk about a very controversial topic here, and this has to do with the cost of hiring a criminal defense attorney. Now, let's say hypothetically you're charged with a really serious offense like a murder, rape, robbery, kidnapping, or worse, a murder. I mean, heaven forbid you're charged with a murder. I mean, here in the San Francisco Bay Area, if you are charged with a murder, a criminal defense attorney will probably charge you in the neighborhood of $100,000 to $200,000 to take the case. And that probably does not include the cost of actually going to jury trial to handle the matter. Now, what do you do in a situation like that? Well, you might have to get a loan, you might have to beg family for money, but let's say you just don't have access. You don't have access to that money. Well, that could be a major problem for a couple of reasons. Number one, because let's say, okay, well, your only option is to go with the public defender. And generally speaking, the public defenders are actually really good attorneys. They're actually really good, contrary to what many people believe. They're actually very, very good. The problem, though, is that sometimes they are just overwhelmed. They have tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of cases. So it's a question of resources. It really is a question of resources. I mean, if you're a public defender and and you have a caseload of 500 cases, and then all of a sudden you have this murder, it's like, I mean, how are you gonna do all the work and yet still do everything else for every other client that you have? It just doesn't work out. So the problem is, a lot of times people who are innocent of charges have no other choice but to cut deals. And let me explain how this works. Let's just say hypothetically, you're accused of a really serious crime like a murder. And heaven forbid it's first-degree murder. So you're looking at life or hell, even death, as your maximum punishment. Well, let's say you're looking at this, and you're fighting case for a year and a half, hell, 3 years. Keep going to court over and over and over. And this is assuming, obviously, that you're out on bail, because that's another issue. Bail would be ridiculously expensive on a murder case. But let's say you're out on bail. You keep going to court over and over and over and over and over for like 3 years, and then finally they come to you with an offer after all this mess. And they say, well, here's the thing. If we take this case to a jury trial, what are your chances of winning? Well, I don't know, you might have a good case, but what if your public defender is just too overwhelmed? And we've seen situations where public defenders will flat out tell people, look, I believe you have a really good case, but I'm too overwhelmed and there's just no way I'd be able to do an adequate job. And you should probably go look for a private lawyer. Problem though is that a private lawyer for a murder case would charge an arm and a leg, probably even $300,000-400,000, maybe even more. So at that point they tell you, well, here's the thing, I'm probably going to lose because I just don't have the ability to represent you adequately, and you don't have the money to hire a private lawyer. So you go to the DA and you say, well, this is what's going on, blah 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 blah. The DA is like, well, we could cut a deal where he could plead no contest to the 187 murder, and we'll give him 12 years state prison. 12 years state prison. And if he does well, obviously at 85%, because it's a strike offense, he'll be out in about a little under 10 years, give or take. Well, you have somebody who's innocent, who hasn't done anything, but he's looking at a potential 10-year sentence. Of course, if he fights the thing, he could look at life or death. But let's say he's being offered 10 years. And let's say, just to make it more easily understandable, let's say this person who's being accused is 25 years old, which means he'll be 35 when he gets out, and he'll have a full life ahead of him. So we say, well, a lot of times people who are innocent will be like, well, I mean, I didn't do this, but I don't have the money to hire a private lawyer to take this murder case to trial, and my public defender has told me that they're just too overwhelmed to adequately study it, and he's even recommended that I hire somebody else. And a lot of times people will just take the deal. And see, and you could look this up actually with Innocence Project. With the Innocence Project, 1 out of every 20 people who is in prison right now is factually innocent. The problem is the evidence just isn't in their favor, or they flat out did not have the money to fight the case. And this is a really serious problem. I mean, I always look at this analogously to health insurance. What if health insurance flat out did not exist? Let's say it just didn't exist and there was no obligation to help somebody in need. So, like, let's say you have a heart attack, and then they tell you, yeah, this heart operation is going to cost you $60,000. You tell them, well, I don't have $60,000. Maybe we'll just give you this medicine so that you don't feel as much of the pain as your heart explodes in your chest. I mean, that's the thing, and that's what happens in our system right now. That's literally what's happening with our criminal justice system, is that people get accused. And by the way, the people who get accused of the most serious crimes, the people who get accused of the most serious crimes, generally speaking, are people who don't make as much money. And people with money, granted it happens, but it's rare that somebody who makes $250,000 a year plus gets charged with a rape, a robbery, a kidnapping, a murder. It happens, but it's rare. The majority of people who get charged with these offenses are people that, don't have, a dime to their name. And so you could see why so many people who could potentially be innocent for what they are being accused of, in fact, plead to something they didn't do simply because, hey, you just don't have the money. I'm sorry, you're SOL. And by SOL, I'm not talking about statute of limitations. Anyway, that was just a quick rant on some of the problems that we have with our criminal justice system. And that's why I always tell people, hey, you might have the right to do X, but don't do anything where somebody could think that you're guilty of something. Don't look guilty. All right, just avoid trouble altogether, because you don't want to get accused of something you didn't do and then all of a sudden be in a situation where you might have to plead to something you didn't do because you don't have the money to get your way out of it. Anyway, that's my rant for today, and let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you.